Have you ever stopped to think about how something real, something physical, can just become a myth? You know, how a pile of ancient bones in the ground can somehow transform into a fire-breathing legend? Well, today we're diving into exactly that. How the mind acts as this incredible shapeshifter, turning what we know into something, well, fantastical. And we're going to be using insights from some of the most unusual thinkers you could ever imagine. So let's get started.
Our whole journey really kicks off with this amazing observation from a butterfly. Get this, it noticed that dinosaurs didn't just go extinct. In a way, they evolved. They shapeshifted into dragons. But, and this is the key part, this transformation didn't happen out there in the real world. Nope, it happened entirely inside our minds. And that one idea, that's the mystery we're unpacking.
So naturally, that leads us to the big question, right? How in the world does the mind pull off a trick like that? If a dinosaur can literally become a dragon inside our heads, where do you even begin to draw the line between what's real and the powerful world of our imagination?
To even start to answer that, we've got to look at the spark. Let's dig into how this whole psychological transformation gets started, right from that very first flash of insight.
Okay, so here's the breakdown from the butterfly's point of view. It's pretty simple when you lay it out. You start with something real, the dinosaur, you end up with something totally mythical, the dragon. The switch happens entirely in the mind, and this leads the butterfly to wonder, is there some kind of psychological seed? You know, a root idea that just takes what was already there and grows it into something new? But before we get totally lost in the mind, let's pull back and ground ourselves in reality. And I mean a very, very big reality. To really get the myth, you first have to understand the creature it came from. A creature whose entire world, whose whole existence was defined by the physical. For these creatures, the philosophy was dead simple. It all boiled down to one thing: power. Your place in the world, your importance, it was all measured by physical size and strength. Their whole reality was built on a foundation of just pure, undeniable might. And wow, this quote just perfectly captures that worldview. Just listen to the dinosaur's certainty here. The only threat it can even imagine is something physically bigger. There's no concept of a non-physical danger, no idea that a thought could be a threat. To them, being smaller is being lesser. It's an impossible step backward.
And the pterodactyl is right there with him, totally confused by any other possibility. From its view up in the sky, the logic is exactly the same. Progress is a straight line. It only goes up. You only get bigger. The very idea of getting smaller just doesn't compute. This rigid, physical-only perspective is the bedrock that the legend is about to spring from.
Okay, so we've got the physical side down. But how does the mind take that and spin it into a legend? Well, it seems there's this abstract mechanism going on, like a kind of blueprint for making myths.
A dove actually offers a really compelling theory. It suggests that deep inside our minds, we have a template, a pre-existing pattern. And when lots and lots of minds hold that exact same template, that same pattern, that's when you start to get these strange associations. An idea starts to connect to other ideas and takes on a life of its own.
So let's just define that really quick. A psychological template is kind of like a mental cookie cutter. It's this shared pattern that our minds use to shape and understand new or abstract ideas. It takes something we don't know and fits it into a form we can recognize, even if that form happens to be a myth.
And boom, here's what you get when that template goes to work. The dragon isn't a physical thing. It knows exactly what it is. It calls itself a legend of fables. It exists as this powerful shared idea that fits perfectly into that psychological template of a huge, snake-like, powerful creature.
Let's just put these two side by side for a second. It's a fantastic contrast. On one side, you have the dinosaur, the absolute peak of physical size, where reality is all about might. And on the other, the dragon, a legend whose reality is defined simply by the fact that it's a shared story. You say? Same basic form, two completely different worlds.
You know, the fact that our minds can even do this, spin reality into legend, it really points to something incredible about the mind itself. This whole process, it isn't just about cool stories. It's a sign of a much deeper mystery. I mean, where does this creative myth-making ability even come from? To understand the shapeshifter, we have to look at the very nature of thought, the absolute strangeness of consciousness. And honestly, who better to ask this question than a conscious donut? Its confusion is hilarious, but it's also incredibly profound. Why does it have a mind? I mean, really, what evolutionary purpose does a pastry serve by pondering its own existence? It just completely throws our assumptions about consciousness right out the window.
And this is the donut's big follow-up.
and it's a question for all of us. We're always taught that evolution works based on need, on survival advantage. So, what's the need for a donut to think, or for us to invent dragons in the first place? Maybe, just maybe, consciousness is way stranger than we give it credit for.
And if you thought the donut was weird, get a load of this egg. It deepens this whole existential puzzle. Before it is even hatched, it's already questioning whether being conscious is even a good thing. It actually remembers the piece of non-existence, suggesting that this whole thinking thing might actually be a burden, maybe even a mistake.
So we've got these abstract templates, and we've got this deep mystery of consciousness. But listen, this isn't just some philosophical game we're playing. These ideas, they have echoes. They actually loop back around and shape the physical world in very, very real ways.
Just take the dragonfly, for example. It's literally living with the fallout of one of these mental templates, and it is not happy about it. It's frustrated. It's confused. Why is it named after a myth it has absolutely nothing in common with? This is a perfect example of how a legend, an idea, can just impose itself onto a real living creature.
Now check this out. The bear shows us another fascinating echo. It starts wondering, what if the gentle panda, a creature that kind of looks like it, actually changes how other animals see the bear itself? This shared visual template could directly affect the bear's own identity and its survival strategy out there in the real world. Wild, right? And then you've got the fox, who's just baffled by its own PR. It's famous for being witty, but it has no earthly idea where that legend came from. It was just some strange mental concoction, a psychological template that created an expectation that now defines what it is. That's how powerfully our minds can shape reality.
And all of this brings us to our final thought, a really critical question posed by the fox. After seeing how our minds create myths, slap on labels, and build reputations seemingly out of thin air, it asks us this: should we be spending our time chasing these mental creations, these empty certainties? Or would our time be better spent trying to understand what is actually objectively real? It's a great question to leave you with.